this is something I actually talk to clients about a ton. So it's kind of funny because I have this experience a lot where I'm like, oh, I talk about that a lot, but I've never like talked about it outwardly. This is one of those things that I'm constantly talking about with clients, but I feel like I've never really like introduced this concept on a in content or on a live or in posts or anything like that. So I'm excited to share with you guys today because I think it's actually really important and makes a huge difference in terms of being able to scale your business, being able to do that well, and honestly being able to do that without as much headache or intensity. So what I'm going to do is kind of explain the concept to you guys, and then I want to go through a bunch of specific examples because I think those are always the most helpful by far in terms of seeing how this applies. So we will do that. If you're here, say hi. I don't even know if I can see comments on this new thing, so try it for me so I can see. But basically, here's the concept. So I think that a lot of times in business, anything that we feel like has to shift or has to change or needs our attention, we tend to make an issue out of it. And that's definitely a problem at the beginning of your business, for sure. I mean, I think it can keep you stuck in so many ways, but it's really a problem as your business grows and scales, because not only are you making it a problem for you, but you're making it a problem for your team. And so if you're someone who's used to kind of bringing things up or looking at them as issues, as your business continues to grow and as your team continues to grow, it will be very intense if you're always bringing stuff to them like it's an issue. It will be really intense for you. It'll be really intense for a team, and it will be really, really hard to scale. Oh my gosh, yay, I can see comments on here. Hi, Alicia. Thank you for being here. Hey, Naomi. Oh my gosh. Life just opened up again that I like am live and it's working and I can see comments. I can turn off my phone. Like everything just got better in like 2.5 seconds. Thank you guys so much. Okay. So you can bring importance to something as a leader without bringing issue to it, i.e. like creating drama, triggering yourself, triggering your team, making it a problem, right? And I think that it's so tempting to make issue out of everything, right? We know, especially at the beginning of our business, that's kind of what we tend to do. And that's what a lot of marketing is based off of, right? You have all these issues in your business and you have to fix them and you have to buy and da, 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 da. And so everything that we like identify as like a gap or an opportunity or whatever, we tend to look at as an issue and we want to like fix it and we want to make it a problem. And it gets so draining. But it's really, really, really hard to scale and run a team like that. So I'm just going to give you some examples so you can see what I mean and be able to apply this to you. Because again, this is like something I talk to my clients about all the time because it's really challenging to run a team from this perspective. So let me give you an example. So if your team isn't doing something how you would do it, like it's so quick to be like, they're the wrong people. We have so many issues. This is a big issue versus like, it's important that my team's able to support me in the way that I need to be supported. So frankly, it's my job to take the steps that I have to take to have them support me or let go of them and get someone else to support me, right? But it's like, I can do that without making a big issue out of it. Like that's just a normal thing that happens as my business grows, is like, it's my job to get my team to do things how I would want them to do it, or I need to find other team members that can, right? It's kind of that simple, but we're so quick to make it an issue. Like, oh my God, my team sucks and I'm never gonna have the right team and I'm not supported and I'm this and I'm that. And we can spin out so much for so long versus like, this is just part of doing business. It's important that I have a team that supports me, but I don't have to create this big dramatic issue around it. I just have to keep moving down that path, right? And I think that it's so easy to get really invested in the issue and drama of it versus in just being like, it's important for me to have a team that shows up and serves me. That's it. Like, so I'm going to make sure my team's clear that that's important. And if it's not important to someone on my team, they just need to not be on my team. right? You guys know I talk about neutrality a lot and bringing neutrality to stuff. This is part of that. Like something can still be really important in your business without you making this really big issue of it or feeling like it's this huge problem that has to get solved. It's simply important. It's not a big issue, right? So I'm going to give you another like small example of that. So for one of my clients, it's like really important to her that her stuff goes out with like out grammar errors. Like some of us don't give a fuck about that. For her, it's really important, right? And so what she did for a long time is make this a huge issue with team. So it's like if something went out with a grammar error, it would be like, then she was snapping at team, or it was like a thing, or she was mad, versus like at the beginning when a new team member comes on, now it's like, hey, one of the very important things on our team is grammar. So are you able to show up for that? Are you willing to double check emails? Are you going to make that something really important in your work with us? Great. This is how we roll. It's really important. Versus waiting until someone fucks it up and then making this big issue out of it, right? And it was never getting solved in the right way until we started looking at it from the idea of importance versus issue. Because when it's an issue, nobody can see through that trigger, right? Like if your team feels like you're kind of coming at them about something, or they're worried about like losing their job or whatever, they're very unlikely to be able to be like, oh, it's just really important to her that grammar is checked. Like, sure, easy fix, let me do that. They're going to get into defense mode. They're going to feel like they are fucking things up, right? And so being able to be like, hey, this is really important to us right away from the beginning, as often as possible, is going to change the game in terms of how supported you actually feel and what result you create, and subsequently the relationship you have with your team. If you're always bringing issue to them, they're going to not feel safe on your team and they're going to be scared to do more things, right? So if I'm hearing like about this grammar shit, I'm going to be really hesitant next time to like even put something out there. Like I'm going to want to avoid even doing emails for you. I'm going to want to do anything else on your team besides that, right? If I feel like, oh, okay, well, it's important. And so I just know that it's an important thing when I do these, it gets easier. So one of the things I always say is make sure your team knows how to make you happy. Bringing importance to something versus issue is one of the number one ways to make sure your team can make you happy, right? And quite honestly, I'll give you a couple more team examples, but this goes, is true across the board for anything in your business. So like, let's even use a different example. Like I haven't hit 20K months yet, or I haven't hit 10K months yet, right? And this feels like such an issue. Like, oh my gosh, there must be something wrong with me. This is such an issue. This is such an issue, right? How many can identify with that? It's like a normal thought process that we see in this space. Like I haven't hit this, something's wrong with me, something must be wrong. Oh my gosh, such an issue. And if you can just be like, it's important to me that I hit 20K months. It's important to me that I hit 10K months. So I want to go about figuring out what the next steps are for me to take to do that. That's an entirely different energy. Do you guys see what I mean? Like you can do a lot of the same stuff or get the same outcome with that different energy of like, it's important to me to hit this next level. So I'm going to show up for that versus like, it's such an issue I haven't. Oh my gosh, something's wrong, right? When you're always on the something is wrong, there is an issue here train, guess what happens? You have a lot of issues. When you're like, it's not an issue, but it's important, you start taking action in that direction. Same with your team. When they don't feel like it's an issue, but they know it's important to you, they're going to want to step up for that. They're going to want to take action in alignment with that. If they're always scared they're going to get something wrong, they're going to freeze. If you're always scared you're going to get something wrong and it's going to be a big issue, you're going to freeze. So if you can just swap out that feeling and that term for this idea of like, it's important, but I don't have to make it this issue, everything changes. Like when I started my business, it was super important to me to make a great income as quickly as possible so that I could stay in business and so I could stay in this thing full time. But I never like went down the road of being like, and it's a huge issue if it hasn't come in a certain amount of time or whatever, because I know how hard it is to operate from that place, right? So whether that's you or whether that's team, if everything runs through the filter of like, now we have an issue and we have to go fix it, business is going to feel really hard. It's going to feel like pushing a boulder up a hill, right? If it's like, there are things that are important in our business and we show up for that, business gets easier, like in a second, right? Hey, Claire, thanks for being here. Oh my gosh, so happy I can see these. Hi. Okay, so let me give you another example. One of my clients recently had a launch and it was awesome. It was her best launch ever. And all of her conversions were like really good and above industry standards. So in terms of like opens, clicks, sales page views, sales page conversions, like all of that, totally good, totally on point. But the truth is that if she wants to hit a bigger number next time, we really have like one opportunity, which is to grow her audience, right? So here's the thing. She can choose right now, do I make an issue out of this? Am I going down the route of my audience isn't big enough? This is such a problem. This is such an issue. Oh my gosh, if I ever want to have this big launch, then I have to do this and it's such an issue and right? Or she can go, okay, cool. It's important that I focus on growing the audience, right? And then she can communicate that to her team like, hey guys, the number one focus we have over the next 2 months is to grow the audience. That's really important to us, right? Hi, Aquila. You know, it's so easy to kind of like bring that energy to team then, where it's like, you guys, we have an issue. Like if we want to hit this number next time, we have to grow the audience. This is such an issue for us, versus like, hey guys, it's like a really important focus for us for the next 2 months to make sure we grow that list. So all of our energy, all of our team, all of our efforts going to that. Cool. Right? The team feels so different when you come from that place. And quite honestly, you'll feel really different when you come from that place. Like to be able to not make it a problem, but a really important step is like the whole game in growing your business. Because if not, like what you're going to feel like is you're constantly encountering a new problem, right? Every time you grow and scale, you're going to be like, fuck, there's another problem. There's another issue. Why is there always an issue in business? Or you can be like, there are always new things that are important as we grow and scale, right? Like for this client, like she just had a great launch, but what's important next is to grow the audience more, right? And again, she can choose to be like, fuck, always an issue, right? Or like totally new level of importance. Like we just hit this one marker, great launch. Next thing, it's important that we grow the audience. Like there's such a different energy with that in terms of how you're going to feel while you're scaling and in terms of how your team is going to feel. If your team feels like you're constantly bringing them issues, they're going to constantly feel like their job is in jeopardy, quite honestly, because their money is based off you making money. So if you're constantly like issue, they're going to be like, oh my God, this is like not safe. This is scary. This is not good. It's going to feel really intense for everyone, right? And it's going to be way harder for them to show up and do a great job because it feels so intense, right? If you're like, guys, new important thing, let's roll. They don't feel like anything's like on fire or in jeopardy. They can just show up for that. Like they're going to support you 100 times better if you're taking that attitude, then they're in that place where they feel like there are big issues in your business and they're really uncertain. It's going to be really hard for them to show up 100% to do that work, right? So I think that's just really, really useful to keep seeing is like, not only does that make scaling easier for you, it makes it way easier for team and it gives you a way better experience in being supported by your team. Thanks, Claire. I always do that. Even like sometimes when I'm like having a disagreement with my fiance, I'll be like, well, you're saying it like this, and I'll like basically do an impression. He's like, you don't have to do an impression of me while we're having this discussion. I'm like, yep, noted. Good point. But yes, exactly. So true. So much better for you and your client or and your team. So I especially see this happen when people bring things to their team. So I'm going to use another example of this. But one of my clients, we basically decided like, okay, like we need everyone on the team to be tracking their time, because we need to kind of like level set in terms of like is our time going, where is the money getting spent, all of that kind of stuff. We like really needed to do a pretty hardcore level set on that in terms of figuring out who we need to hire and what needs to happen to continue to grow. So unfortunately, when she initially went to team, she basically presented it to them like, we have to get way more efficient. We have to figure out if we're billing for the right things. We have to clean up this issue as soon as possible so we can grow and all of this stuff. And it kind of really resulted in her whole team being like, do you not trust how we're billing? Like, is something wrong in the business? Like, are we all like in jeopardy of losing our jobs? Like, it really created this whole negative energy. And she had just spent like a week basically cleaning this up and telling everyone it was okay and that really it's not an issue. It's just important that we get a handle on this and level set. And it's important that we like know exactly where money and hours are going. And then like everyone kind of felt better and was able to move on. But it's like that wasted so much of her time having to go back and clean that up. It wasted so much of her team's time freaking out about that. And it wasted so much energy for everybody instead of just being like, hey, this is an important thing that we're doing so that we can get even more efficient and get even more clients in the door so we can grow even more. It's like so important that we go in this direction versus like, this is an issue. Like, we have to do all of this stuff. Everything's wrong, right? Like Belinda said, I bet her team was accidentally terrified. Exactly. So it's like, if you can get yourself to that place where like, even when you're going to them, you're like, wait, what's important here? What is important to communicate? How can I like not make this an issue? Everything will get easier for you and them. If you keep presenting issues both to yourself and to your team, that's what's going to happen. You're going to spend a week cleaning up the mess and slowing down progress, right? And of course, she didn't mean to make her team feel like this. Like, she's a great human, a great business owner. It's just that lack of intention. Sometimes it comes across as like an issue, like versus when we bring that intentionality to it to be like, oh, I don't present stuff to my team as an issue ever. I present things that are important. So again, that's like stuff as small as the grammar thing and as big as the like, we're doing a level set on time and you're tracking and you know, you need to do this thing for us for a period of time. Now, even if somebody's not performing well on your team, you can still bring importance versus issue, meaning like we don't need to be bringing it like, so actually I just had this conversation with my clients this morning, now that I think about it, but she has a few people on her team who are underperforming. Like, we're not being like, oh my God, your underperformance is such an issue. We're like, listen, it's important to us that you're always meeting minimum standards. And if you're not, you can't be on this team. That's it. Like, it's not like everything's this huge issue and it's so intense and whatever. It's just like, hey, what's most important to us? That you meet minimum standards. It looks like you haven't been for the last week. If you continue to not do that, like, we're just not a right fit. Right. And I think that like set point, that neutrality, that line of like, it's very important to us that you show up like this, but we're not about to get invested in the drama around it, is the energy that grows and scales your business, right? If you're really invested in like, you know, the 3 team members that are fucking up or the one issue that you feel like you have in your business or whatever, that continues to grow, right? And you end up with more and more issues. Like, hello, what you focus on expands, right? Like, if you continue to be in that place of like, this is what's important to us, your team will continue to rally around that. And you may have to filter out some people, and that's okay. But if you're always putting out another fire, bringing them another issue, you're not going to have team members that stay a long time, and they're definitely not going to scale with you. And they're going to be resistant and hesitant to take on a lot more. So this is just like a silly example, but like something that happened with my team recently is someone that has been like an amazing team member, a longtime team member, made a error in our business that cost us like $100 or something like that. And she like was really upset about it. And she's like, this is such an issue. I'm sorry. I'm going to deduct it from, you know, like the invoice I'm sending you, all of this stuff. And I was just like, this is like not an issue. Like you're allowed to make $100 mistake in our business. Like you've been working in my business for, you know, a couple of years and you're an amazing team member. Like this is not an issue. You're allowed to make $100 mistake. And since then, she's been able to step up in new ways in our business, even because she's not like scared of the mistake, right? It's not the issue. It felt like it was. If I had been like, yeah, that's really an issue and you definitely need to deduct it from your pay and, then like what would happen is she would immediately pull back, right? She would be scared to do more stuff. She would be really hesitant to just go Google something and figure that shit out. But if you can be like, it's no thing. It's important to me that you're a great team member and you are. This is not an issue. Then next time she's going to go above and beyond. She's going to feel free to go Google the thing and try the thing, like maybe make a mistake sometimes. Like that's what we need our team to feel like they can do. Fuck, that's what we need to feel like we can do to be able to grow, right? And this is where hey Jen, thank you. And this is where it changes, is when you can take that frame of mind and then when you can pass that frame of mind onto your team, right? So if you're able to be like, these issues are not issues when they're not, like that example I just gave, or when something is presenting to be a problem for you, being able to bring importance to it without making it a big issue, that's how you grow with a lot more ease. And that's how you get team members that are willing to just go do stuff and try stuff. That's a question I get asked all the time because a lot of my, all of my mastermind has access to Megan. And I get that question all the time. Is like, how do I get my Megan? Like, how are you so lucky to have her just be able to like do so much in your business and, know so much and get so much done? And truly that's it, is she knows what's important to me and I don't make other things an issue, right? Like, and she knows like I have her back and I'm not ever going to come at her like this is a fucking problem. Like she's never going to feel like that on my team. So she feels really free to go experiment and do stuff and make decisions for me and whatever, because she knows I'm never going to be like, this is a fucking issue and da, da, da. And like, of course, nobody's talking to their team like that, but that's the energy a lot of us come to it with. And if you can like totally pull back from that and not do that both to yourself and to your team, they're going to show up for you in such a different way. Like Megan is so free to make decisions, which helps me a ton because she knows there's not going to be an issue on the other side of that for her, right? What we can do sometimes too much is to make so many issues with our team that they just feel like they can never really get it right. And we all know what that feels like. What do? You just pull back. You can also do this with yourself. If you're constantly finding an issue in your business, it can just feel like, what's the fucking point, right? Like, why bother? And you really pull back. So this is definitely a scaling thing, but honestly, if you're just starting out, this is a relevant concept for you too. It just applies more to you than team in the way I'm talking about it. But like, it's so true that like anytime we like make something a problem and make ourselves or other people feel really bad about it, the problem is so much less likely to get solved, right? That's just always true. I could use 100 examples for that, but that's always it, right? Okay, so another way that we do this in a lit up life is we have a rule. So we kind of have like rules in our business. Megan and I actually did a whole live stream on that. I can try to find it and link it if you guys want to see that. But we kind of have rules in our business. And one of the rules is nothing is an emergency. So that's a rule like Megan knows, team knows, like I know. it's a thing for us. Like that is like one of the tenets that we operate a lit up life by, is nothing is an emergency. So team knows that what's most important to me is serving our clients really well, but none of it's issue or emergency. So for example, if whatever, a client emails and like can't access something they need to access or whatever, it's so easy to be like, oh my God, this is such an issue. Why can't this person get that? This is such a problem. How fast are we responding to them? Da, 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 versus like, Nothing is an emergency. So this is not one. Even though it's important, the most important thing to me is that we serve our customers really well. It's still not an emergency or an issue, right? So if you and Megan ever have a knockdown drag out, please make it an internet event, because that would be so weird. The weirdest. I can't even imagine. But yeah, like I think in that case, right, you can really pick, is this going to be an emergency and issue? Or is this just going to be something important we solve? And like, you might do the exact same thing, which is like email the client back in 2 hours and fix it. But the energy you bring to it and that your team brings to it and the intensity felt around it will be totally different, right? If it's like, everything is an emergency, everything's an issue, right? You can create company culture, even just with one person on your team where everything's an issue, or you can create company culture where nothing's an issue and nothing's an emergency. And I think people are so scared to do that with teams sometimes, because they think like, well, if I'm not making it an issue, like, won't they just fuck it up? And in my experience, it's almost always the exact opposite. When someone feels like less intensity and like they can do their job really well, they're way less likely to fuck it up. I'm not saying it never happens, but even if it does, it's still not an issue. It's just important to let them go and find the right team member. But almost no one performs really well under a lot of issues or scrutiny. And in fact, like that's why almost all of us left corporate. So we're like so over like the drama and the intensity and the issues and the whatever, right? So really, really helpful concept. And honestly, even just helpful in the wording, like paying attention to your wording. Like, can I use the word important with my team more? It's important that we blank, right? Versus we have an issue or it's an issue that blank, right? If you can even just play with that, especially even when you're onboarding team members, it's important that we do this in our company. It's important that this always happens in our company, whether it's the grammar thing or whatever, right? Everything gets easier for you because it's like the NLP trick, right? Like even just saying it as this is important, it changes things internally for you. But it changes things for your team too, because they feel differently about it. It changes things in terms of how you look at challenges that come in your business, how you look at areas of focus, how you communicate areas of focus. So those are some things that I would practice with, is like, can I just use the word important way more in team conversations? Can I play with making it clear what's important to us without bringing issue or intensity to it? And then can I do the same for me, right? Like, what would it look like to take every issue that I felt like I had in my business right now and run it through that lens? Like, it's important to make 20K months, so I'm going to show up for that. It's important that we have good grammar in our emails, so we're going to do that. It's important that we grow our list for the next launch. Like, just go play with that in your own business, even if you don't have a team yet, and watch how it transforms how you're able to show up, how you feel about the thing, right? It's important that I, get better at content. It's totally different than content is an issue for me. Completely different experience, right? So whether you have a team and are scaling, or whether you have one person on your team, or whether you have none, we really invite you to play with this and to journal on this and turn those concepts around in your mind, because from this place and from that place of neutral is such an incredible way to run a business, quite honestly. It's so funny because Sarah and I just recorded a Happy Thoughts show episode today that was kind of all about like managing your emotions and how to kind of like master your emotions. And it was really good. I think it'll come out in like about 3 or 4 weeks. I don't know how far ahead we are. But anyway, pay attention for that, because this is kind of that, right? It's like when I'm bringing all the emotionality to it, it feels like an issue. When I'm managing and mastering my emotions and I'm coming from neutral, it's just important. So if you're finding it really hard to like pull back from making it an issue, definitely listen to some Happy Thoughts stuff, or listen to other mindset stuff that I've done, because that is like kind of the trick to this. And I won't get into all of that right now, but try it out. And if you can't do it, cool, you have some emotional mastery to gain. That's okay. We all do. But if you can, you're going to see an immediate flip in terms of how much intensity, you know, is present for you, how much is present for your team, and how quickly you're able to move forward. So that's the whole thing. Importance versus issue. Really, really useful concept. Try it on. It will help, I promise. And I appreciate you guys. Thank you for being here. Happy Monday, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.